following is intended only for mature audiences.
Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
Have you read in the news that President Trump, before he leaves office, is trying to whiz-bang through a bunch of remaining opportunities to execute federal prisoners?
No, but I haven't really been watching the news either, so...
This is from the BBC News, and it states, in Trump's final days, a rush of federal executions. 5 executions are scheduled before President-elect Joe Biden's January 20th inauguration, breaking a 130-year-old precedent of pausing executions amid a presidential transition. So it sounds like par for the course is to say, hold on, we'll wait for the next president. But Trump, knowing that he's a lame duck now, says all 5 will take place.
Oh, really?
So that would make him the country's most prolific execution president in more than a century, overseeing the executions of 13 death row inmates since July of this year. Now, this is an older article, a couple weeks. It says the 5 executions began this week, starting with convicted killer 40-year-old Brandon Bernard, who was put to death at the penitentiary in Terre Haute, Indiana. And the execution of 56-year-old Alfred Bourgeois, I believe that's pronounced, will take place on the evening of December 11th, which already happened. So let's Google Alfred
So these
Bourgeois.
are people that are on death row, and it's just getting sped up?
Well, normally what it is saying is that if the president is transitioning out,
Yeah.
that they would pause the executions until the next administration takes over so that they could take on the cause of are they going to pardon or not.
Okay, well, I could see the Democrats being upset about it because they love to let criminals out of jail.
Right. There we go. Alfred Bourgeois, dead. Now I'm going to go back to the first article that inspired me to go with this topic for an episode. The U.S. is set to execute a female federal inmate for the first time in almost 70 years. Lisa Montgomery once strangled a pregnant woman in Missouri before cutting out and kidnapping the baby in 2004.
I think I heard of that.
She's due to be given lethal injection in Indiana, another Indiana, on January the 12th, 8 days before Inauguration Day.
She deserves it.
The last woman to be executed by the U.S. government was Bonnie Heady, who died in a gas chamber in Missouri in 1953.
What do you think is worse, lethal injection or gas?
The gas.
Now, in the gas chamber, are you in a room and they just fill it with gas, kind of like the Nazis did to the Jews? Or do you think you're strapped down to a chair or something so you can't, like, freak out, run around? And
I believe it's a pod that they lock you inside, and they start pumping in the poison.
Okay.
But the lethal injection thing, the last few years, what they did is they tried to stop it from happening because people were having these, I'm going to quote this, terrible adverse reactions to the chemicals in the execution. So they'd writhe in pain, they wouldn't die. It's supposed to be, quick and painless. Why, I couldn't fucking tell
Yeah,
you.
I was going
Because
to say, did their victims die quick and painless?
it's a capital offense, and it's capital punishment. It's always boggled my mind that people commit these unbelievably terrible crimes. And then you get this cabal of dipshits with signs protesting like, oh, stop this execution, this life matters. Fuck you, this life matters. It doesn't. It doesn't.
Once you take a life, your life's kind of fucked.
So this woman, now, let me wise you up as to what she did.
Okay.
In December 2004, Montgomery drove from Kansas to the home of her victim in Missouri to purportedly purchase a puppy. And when she got there, she attacked and strangled the woman, who was 8 months pregnant, until she lost consciousness. Using a kitchen knife, she then cut into her abdomen, causing her to regain consciousness.
That'll wake you up in the morning.
A struggle ensued, and Montgomery strangled Stinnett to death. She then removed the baby from her body, took the baby with her, and attempted to pass it off as her own. So I guarantee there are going to be some people that are going to think that she should not be put to death.
She's a victim because she couldn't have a child, or she's a victim because no one would love her. Well, yeah, she's batshit fucking crazy.
I guarantee you it's going to be the two wrongs do not make a right defense, that just because she killed doesn't mean it's okay to kill her. Well, that's the thing. You should kill people that do things like this.
That way they can't possibly do it again.
And it deters other people from doing this unless they're batshit fucking crazy.
Yeah, because I can tell you, honestly, the reason why I don't go out and commit a shitload of crimes and murders is because I don't want to go to jail or get the death sentence. That's the only thing keeping me from doing it. The fact I could be executed.
A lot of people, I think, are just at their wits' end these days because of how our society is and how people are wired. That with the guns everywhere and the knives everywhere, there's a small portion that are ready to kill at any moment and are totally capable of it, but then they have enough wherewithal to say, oh my God, no, I don't want to go to prison. And if there was no punishment, they would do it.
Yeah, they would.
I think there's tons of people that would do that.
I fucking know I would.
So here's the thing. I will say, when looking back at some of these cases now, that the 5 that he's going to execute, the first one with Brandon Bernard, it's different. I read up on his case. He got steamrolled by a prosecution who deemed him a threat to society while incarcerated based upon face value interpretations of statements he made in court. So by saying that all members of a gang are equal, and even though he wasn't the trigger man, they're saying, well, if you're equal to these other people that pulled the trigger, you're every bit as dangerous as them. You shouldn't be in society. Oh, and while we're at it, you're every bit as dangerous as them behind bars too. So you're just a complete danger to all human beings. And that in court is what they used as the justification to give him a death sentence. Other people pulled the trigger. He didn't know a shooting was going to occur, he claimed. So he's guilt by association, which probably should have landed him 25 to life, not lethal injection.
Yeah, because he didn't actually do the killing.
But I have always said that, and I feel this way very strongly, if we were to use the death penalty more often, anybody that commits a crime for the benefit of a gang, off them. The end. Goodbye. Don't need you. If you're doing that for your little good old boys club, it's a criminal organization. You're committing a crime for the benefit of the gang. To join up, to get them money, to kill a rival. None of that is redeemable. Even if you go to jail for 25 years, you sit behind bars in a max class facility prison, you go there and you end up having to click up there too, and you're just partaking in more criminality.
It's just, criminality in jail. So...
And then you get out and you have all these hurdles to clear that makes it nearly impossible to get your life together. Like last year at the MSSA conference, the Minnesota Social Workers Conference that they have every year, I sat through a seminar about this, about all the roadblocks that prisoners face coming out. And that's affordable housing, reliable transportation, getting a job or having a place to live or getting a car or insurance. And they get out with their gate fees, the money they earn when they're behind bars that they get when they go to the street. It's never enough to cover all those bases. So I argue that any of these people that commit crimes of that nature for the benefit of a gang, it really makes more sense to just execute them.
I wish there was more executions, to be honest. But, there are situations where wrongly accused and everything. But, I don't know. The forensic science has gotten so good lately. It's pretty hard to be incorrect.
I'm glad you brought that up because I started looking at statistics on it. And there's plenty of people that as soon as you bring this shit up, they're like, oh my God, haven't you ever heard of the Innocence Project? And yeah, I fucking heard of it. That doesn't mean that everybody that's in prison is innocent, because if you ask everybody in jail, they're all innocent, right?
No, only one man did it, and that was Ellis Redding. And he got out of prison, and he went and met his friend Andy, and they lived happily ever after.
Yeah. I have to believe that there's not that high a percentage of people sentenced to death. Some people get out of it. It's not very common. But even like 50 years ago or 25 to 30 years ago, DNA evidence has become so prominent that the odds of being wrongly convicted, unless you're in the South and the judge is white and the cops are white and you're not, are very small.
Whatever.
I found a couple different sites stating that it was between 2 and 5%, and another one that said 4%, which, depending upon the number of people that are incarcerated and on death row, 4%, you would say, well, that's a small number.
For the overall prison population, it actually sounds like a lot.
But I'm saying for those on death row.
4% of the prison population that's on death row, or 4% that's getting...
4% of people on death row are wrongly convicted.
Okay. That's a pretty small number, actually.
It's a little
how many people are on death row at
that,
any given time?
I suppose you could look. It's
I thought
probably
you would have.
a couple thousand. I can do so right now.
I think it's that high.
Oh, you would be fucking shocked.
I would be shocked because I don't research this stuff. I don't pay attention to it.
People are on death row. 2020. 2,620 people, according to the Criminal Justice Project of the NAACP. There are 2,620 people on death row in the U.S. as of January the 1st, 2020. Since 1976, when the death penalty was reinstated by the U.S. Supreme Court, states have executed 1,516 people. That's as of July 2020.
Okay, so you figure of those 2,000, there's roughly 8.5 people that are innocent.
Let's just do some quick math here. 26.
It's some shitty math I just did.
Times 0.04 is 104 people.
See, I knew my math was bad.
And they're not all going to get executed of those 104 people. But as the technology for criminal forensics gets better, the odds of pooping the bed on that are much smaller. And one could argue there should be no innocent people. Some people, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and there's culpability that is established in court, and you're dumb as fuck, so you don't have a good attorney. It's just, hey, it's the way it goes. Think about when
the Beast
assaulted me, and they threw out the domestic charge because it was a misdemeanor due to the cost of a jury trial. They're like, we're going to waive that one. How do you think that makes me feel as a fucking victim? You have victimized me again.
Well, one could point out, he's not on death row, but have you heard of the Making a Murder documentary that's on Netflix?
Yeah, and the back and forth and the Jesus
back
Christ.
And forth, which, I mean, it's hard to say, but I mean, that's one of those situations like, well, how do you know? How do you believe? I mean, even if you watch the documentary, you're still looking at it going, but how?
Yeah.
Like, how is he not out? How is he not in? I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah, when they had the opportunity to clear the younger kid, and you figure, well, he should be getting out. No. Then there's like all these processes that have to happen.
Injunctions that the state prosecutor decided to throw in there and try to keep him in jail. So, yeah, and that was quite a few years ago that he was supposed to get out, and he's still in there as far as I know.
I will say this on the opposite side of the coin, because I'm very pro-death penalty, especially in terms of crimes of violence committed against women and children, crimes of murder, crimes for the benefit of a gang, and sex crimes. Fucking all of them. Off them.
Worthless fucking people, yeah.
I will say this. It is fucking astonishing how muddy the water is for something like the whole Making a Murderer case. That was Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
How in this day and age, or even in the last 2 decades, something could be that fucked up.
It's that fucked up because supposedly higher-ups were trying to make sure that this guy was going to go to jail. Because he was going to sue them for millions of dollars. And he was going to fucking win.
Well, it's interesting, though, how many fucking steps it takes when it's proven that you're wrongly accused to actually get you free versus how fast they say, yeah, the cop was in the right to shoot that guy. I'm going to play devil's advocate on that.
I would say it's usually the prosecutors that don't want to look like they put somebody in jail. You know, they wrongly accused, wrongly convicted somebody. So, in my opinion, it's basically the state prosecutor trying to save face.
Probably, and it just keeps going up the court system until it gets to the Supreme Court for some of these. And I have to just think to myself, why is it that it is so easy for you to just get through a trial like with Officer Yanez that shot Philando Castile? They got through that so fucking fast, and he's a free man. But yet, the kid from that Making a Murderer show, didn't they like win a new appeal or something, or overturn something, and that's why they said he should be free?
Yeah, they overturned the conviction because of the way the evidence was handled, and when the police went and interviewed him, that was wrong. And if you even watch part of the tape, you can see that they were feeding this kid the information they wanted, and this kid, being as mentally handicapped as he was, not hard to do.
So I just Googled making a murderer conviction overturned. A federal appeals court has affirmed a judge's ruling that overturned the murder conviction of Brendan Dassey, who was featured in the Netflix series Making a Murderer. The effort to free Brendan Dassey, who is serving a life term in prison for the 2005 murder of Teresa Halbach, remains active. Despite the coronavirus pandemic, Dassey, 30, is serving a life sentence for first-degree intentional homicide as party to the crime. So he's not out. Doesn't that boggle your mind how fucked our justice system is?
It can be, oh yeah.
Nah, I'm not going to say, oh, it's better other places. Because it's fucking not.
No, I imagine it's pretty much this way all around the country.
Fucking
Probably worse than other countries.
China executes people, like, within a matter of days.
Yeah, just like, oh, you're guilty? Well, we take you now.
Well, over there, you're guilty until proven innocent.
Some would argue that's the way it is here.
It is, basically. And then also in Russia, if you take a look at the percentage of convictions that prosecutors get, it's astronomical. It's in the high 90 percentages, which is pure bullshit because there's no way that they're that good at finding who did what. Innocent people are going to prison and the gulag and dying in behind bars in Russia, left, right, and fucking sideways.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying, oh, we should be like those countries. But something needs to change. I mean, I don't know why anybody would be against the death penalty for certain terrible capital crimes, capital offenses. If it's lock, stock, and two smoking barrels, you got them without a hair of a doubt.
There's video evidence. There's blood evidence. There's fingerprints.
So why do we allow so many appeals for them to try to get off on some bullshit technicality because somebody didn't dot an I and cross a T? We've got all this evidence, and you'd say, oh, well, the officers were talking to him, and he didn't understand everything they were saying. Do we have you on video? Do we have DNA evidence linking you to the crime? Yes. Yes. Did you confess? Yes. Was under duress? Maybe, but probably not. You're just fucking stupid. Too bad. And then we don't need to lethally inject you. We can shoot you in the side of the fucking head, and you will die instantly. Especially if we do it with a shotgun, because your head will be all over the goddamn wall. You won't feel it. Or we can just go back to the guillotine, because that severs your spinal cord first, so you don't feel the pain, and your head might be aware for what do they say, 5 to 8 seconds afterwards.
I don't even think it was that long.
One would argue that that's not cruel or unusual. The guillotine? That's a fucking, there's no messing up. Nobody's living through the guillotine.
No, guess not.
Not like they'd have with the electric chair, not like they've had problems where people didn't die on the table from lethal injection. I mean, firing squads, I don't think they provide you a team of spot marksmen to shoot you directly in the head.
Well, and it's like, even though there's like 5 or 6 riflemen lined up, only one has a bullet.
What?
I read an article a long time ago when they stopped doing firing squads, but when they did do death by fire squad, there'd be, anywhere from 5 to 8 people lined up with rifles, and only one rifle would have a live round in it, the rest would be having blanks. And they were all told to aim at the exact same spot. And
so that one of
so
them could
nobody knew, so they didn't all be like, well, it was me, I killed him. They wouldn't have to live with that guilt. They'd be like, well, it could have been someone else.
Well, what the fuck? If you're going to sign up for that job, I'd fucking do that job.
I don't know if they signed up for it. I don't know who actually, I don't even know who the actual people with the rifles were. It didn't mention if they were law enforcement, if they were prison guards, or what.
Well, it's probably not just some guy that was hanging out out back having a smoke.
Pretty sure it wasn't a dude out back having a smoke saying, hey, you got a minute?
Yeah, I said this numerous times. I would love to be an executioner. Not because I just want to kill people, but because I would like to play an active role in delivering final justice to people that have, like sex offenders specifically.
Oh, God, that would be fun. Can I do torture first? I mean, can we have some fun with it?
I'm fine. You stick me in a room with them and a Bowie knife and they got nothing to fight back with. I'll fucking take them apart. I'll go cartel style on their ass. I'd be quicker and cleaner to just, for the sake of time, pop them off with a single bullet and to be cost effective.
Very cost effective and not much cleanup.
So some guy like that other guy that was executed, was his name Bourgeois or whatever was his name, I said?
Bourgeois.
They said he killed his own child that was a baby. Like a 2-month-old, I believe it said.
What the fuck? Okay, I know they cry a lot, but come on.
Execute that motherfucker. Here's a classic one. You hear about people that gave meth to a baby thinking that getting it high would cause it to calm down and stop crying because they're not caring for it worth a shit. Because they have no parental instincts, and unfortunately, everybody with a dick and a set of balls is almost nearly a viable sperm donor to make a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, those people that fucking do that shit. Why even put them in prison for like a decade and a half? Fucking off them too.
There's a lot of people in prison that shouldn't be there. They should just be dead.
There's so many people that work regular jobs that are complete pieces of shit and on drugs, and you don't know it till they fuck up. Like, do you have any idea how many fucking independent contractors that do home exteriors and remodel projects have felonies? It's because they're their own boss. They don't have to run a background check on them.
That's fine as long as they don't break into my house.
So politically, this wasn't like I was taking a slant, like, how dare Trump do that? I don't care. I'm fine with that. Whether it was him doing it, whether it was Obama doing it, whether it was one of the Bushes or Clinton, if they're on their way out and there's like, fine, let's execute these motherfuckers. Why do we have to leave it to the next administration to clean up the mess? Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It. That is at What Do We Call It. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
And I'm number one fan Tim.
And that's the end.